I'm Soledad O'Brien. Welcome to Matter of Fact. Support for legalizing marijuana in America recently hit an all-time high. According to Gallup, nearly 66% of Americans say it's time to ease up on restrictions, and at least 30 states allow some form of medical or recreational cannabis use. Even though it's still a federal crime, prosecutors in New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia are moving away from prosecuting marijuana possession cases. They say it's a waste of time and police resources. The top prosecutor in Baltimore is the latest to make the move. The state's attorney, Marilyn Mosby, says she's no longer going to prosecute marijuana possession cases, regardless of the amount or a person's prior criminal record. She joins us now. It's so nice to have you.
Thank you for having me, Soledad.
My pleasure. So, as you well know, critics would say, oh my gosh, you're saying you're not going to prosecute something that is a crime, and so therefore you are undermining the law. How do you answer critics on that?
So first and foremost, this is not something that I arrived to overnight. This is a result of, months of research and studying best practices. And what we ultimately concluded was that there's absolutely no public safety value in the prosecuting possession of marijuana cases. It's counterproductive to the limited use of resources that we have. And most importantly, it's exacerbated distrust because of the discriminatory enforcement of these laws.
So when you talk about resources, are you talking about money, or are you talking about the focus of the police department?
It's the focus, it's the manpower. When you look at a city like mine, in Baltimore City, where last year we had 316 homicides with a year-end clearance rate of 26%. Prosecuting marijuana possession cases is not making the city any more safer. Right? We should be reprioritizing those resources and that manpower towards solving homicides and going after violent individuals.
You have a new acting police commissioner, Michael Harrison. The person who held that job prior was Gary Tuggle, and he said he was not going to tell his officers to stop making arrests, which of course then seems like a conflict. With your new acting police commissioner, have you had a conversation with him? Where does he stand on this?
We actually had that conversation on Monday. He was a little confused about my policy, but I was able to, direct him to exactly what my policy was.
And what do you think he's going to do? Is he going to take the position, hey, listen, the police will continue to make arrests regardless? Or do you think he's going to say, yeah, I understand your new strategy and I'm going to work with you? I had a great conversation.
I think that the acting commissioner, gets the bigger sort of picture about public safety in the city of Baltimore and reprioritizing the resources that we have. And, I think it's not a conflict because at the end of the day, as the state's attorney, as the top prosecutor, I can never be complicit in the discriminatory enforcement of laws against poor Black and brown people. Since the decriminalization of marijuana in October of 2014, it is now a civil infraction and the officers issue civil citations. Since that decriminalization in 2015, 89% of the citations that they issued were to Black people. 2016, 94% of the citations they issued were to Black people. 2017, 95% of the citations that they issued were to Black people.
So white people and Black people are using marijuana at the same rates.
So they're focusing on Tyrone and not Tommy, right? And they're focusing on Tyrone in West Baltimore and not Tommy in other areas within the city.
There are people who would say, yeah, but aren't you tacitly saying, hey, this is fine then? If, as the top prosecutor, you're not going to prosecute people who are, at this moment, smoking marijuana is still technically a crime. You're complicit in giving consent for something.
No, I'm not. I'm not advocating for marijuana and the consumption of marijuana. What I'm saying is that this is clearly discriminatory enforcement. And I cannot, as the top prosecutor, be complicit in that discriminatory enforcement against poor Black and brown people. And so I'm saying I'm going to take myself out of the equation, especially in light of the fact that we're already moving towards legalization, where people are actually profiting off of marijuana, yet and still we want to criminalize poor Black and brown people. I will never be complicit in that.
Marilyn Mosby, it's nice to have you. Thank you for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.